me tell you a story. A story and a theory, hypothesis. I was talking to some like 22-year-old dude on the East Coast a year or two ago, and he was talking about how he never had a real relationship or anything like that. And I was like, man, you're 22? I was like, that's kind of that to me, that's crazy. And I realized something. When I was a teenager and when I was, partying college years, and it was just like, I drank way too much, man. I used to drink and just party nonstop all day. I didn't go to high school, so I was just skateboarding, playing music, getting drunk, going and partying. It was kind of wild. But the women that I would meet, we didn't have Tinder. We didn't have any of these apps. So what would happen is the women I knew in college only knew the men they met in college. So who are the guys in college? Well, this chick's 19 years old. She knows some 19-year-old guy. He's not got anything really going for him. He lives in a dorm. He doesn't have a car, but it's who she knows. So she dates him. Now he's 19. They, become college sweethearts or whatever. Maybe they get married. Maybe they don't. There's a lot of people like that. That's what's happening.
Not anymore. The game changed.
That's my theory. So I saw this guy. Then dating apps come out. Now this college woman who's 19 or 20 opens up their app, and it's not just the 19-year-old guy. This is what I said to this 22-year-old guy. So I'll tell you what your problem is. And this is not absolute. I'm just saying, but I'll tell you, this is something you really facing that I didn't face when I was younger. I was like, look, I'm in my early 30s. I'm wealthy, successful. I got a conversion RV van. I can take you to an infinity pool on a roof of this luxury casino. And when I go on these apps, how is a 19-year-old college kid going to compete with that? So it's really simple. I'm not trying to impugn the honor of these young women. It's very, very simple. If there's a 20-year-old woman and she swipes right on this like attractive 20-year-old guy at her college, and they're messaging, and she's also messaging a 30-year-old guy. 30-year-old guy says, how would you like me to pick you up in my, convertible, and we'll drive to my house. I've got an infinity pool I just built. And the 20-year-old guy says, how would you like to come hang out at my dorm and watch movies? And she's like, man, which one sounds like more fun? There's more opportunity with the guy who's already established. Dating apps have opened that up and made it much, much harder because now young men without the status and the wealth are competing against established men.
Yes, and adding to that is the 30-year-old guy isn't just texting one 19-year-old. So he's not just taking one off the market, which would be, mathematically you would all kind of suss out. He's actually taking 3, 4, 5 off the market because he's making them all. So it's the weird thing is online dating has ruined it for women because a guy can just be like, hey, dude, I need NUDESs. And if you're like, no, it's like, okay, later. I'm the 35-year-old guy. I'm about to fly to Paris. I'm picking out who I want to bring with me on this trip. You going to send them? No, see you later. Going down the list of you have not just you're 19-year-old and you can't compete, but it's not just one girl's been taken off the market now. It's really like 4 or 5 are being taken off by the top dogs. So you have the top of the food chain kind of guys having a monopoly, and then you have the younger guys who then just check out.
And I want to stress too, like, more power to these women. It's their choice to be with whoever they want to be with. And I'm not saying that there's any violation of their autonomy or agency simply because they're engaged in this dating app game. I'm just saying there is it's a general hypothesis I have that I think the math will pan out that young men are less likely to form bonds and relationships with women because of the competition in the market. But then my question is, what happens when those 20-year-old guys are 30-year-old guys without any dating experience?
But also, most importantly, what's going to happen to those 19-year-old women that do become 30? There's this weird kind of invert axis that happens, especially around the age of 30. I mean, it's becoming later and later on, but it's not good. It's not good for men when they're young, and it's not good for women when they're older. So this is causing a lot of infighting that is causing a lot of relationships not to happen.
I got to say, too, I love, like, this always really, really pisses off the left. But I think it was OkCupid who did this study on...
They would never do that again.
They deleted them. Yeah, they deleted these studies. It showed that I forgot what their metrics were, but that women have maximum societal value at young ages and men have none. And then around 28, men start going up, and it's around 22 men start going up, and around 22 women. I think 22 is where like their highest point.
Yeah, they peak at 22 to 25, and the man. So 25
but they flip at like 30.
Yeah, so then a man's hitting prime time at 28 to like 36, and then the woman on the decline. So then what happens, which was what Luke says, is if you're a 30-year-old guy at the top of the food chain, you're going to be like, why am I going to date a 30-year-old who was dating 30-year-olds when she was 19 all through that when I'm 30 years old, I'm on top of the food chain now. Like, what are you going to do? And then women get mad because they're like, well, I have a career, this and that. And then, and that goes to the survey earlier, is like one thing that really surprises women in a way that's unpleasant for them is most men don't care what your career is. You know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you can say, oh, I'm a mid-level executive at the whatever thing. And if a guy's got his own thing going on, he's like, well, that's nice. I'm happy for you. Congratulations for your success. But I don't know, dude, I'm trying to like take a trip. You want to like get on a plane, or you got to call in sick at work, or you got to get vacation time or whatever.
Yeah, that's actually something I experienced. I was in a relationship with fairly prominent media individual, and it was just like, you're doing your thing, that's really cool, then we're both doing our thing. And so there was no real opportunity to actually spend time together. It's like, if you've got your career and your career is the most important thing, I got to be honest, all we really did was like sleep in the same bed. Like, night comes and it's like, how was your day? That's great. And then we didn't really do anything together. There was no shared mission.
Right. And it can't be that way. And I'm like what you said earlier, is if you're like 19 years old and you get to like have fun, that's your life, man. You know, men or women can do whatever they want to do. The question though is how mathematically that suss's out. So then you have men kind of check out, and then men are kind of, I don't know, man, they're kind of lame. And then I know all these, you know, because when you become a little bit more prominent, you know, women will kind of start to talk to you a little bit more. And a lot of attractive women would be like, oh man, no guys hit on me. And I'm like, look, man, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but I'm not the guy who's going to compliment you. And then I found out, no, they weren't fishing for compliments. Men don't actually make a move. So I would be at places, and it's like junior high. You know, I'm 43. It's like junior high all over again. So there'll be 4 girls over here, women, or, you know, whatever, young women over here, 4 guys over here, and they're kind of like looking, and the guys don't make moves anymore either.
They're on their app. They're like, can I swipe?
They're like, I don't know, make a move or whatever. Whereas when you were, you know, when you were in college, your age or my age, you had to go make a move, dude.
That's the crazy thing. I was thinking about that when I was, you know, like 18, 19, 20. Every weekend we would be at some random house party, and it was literally just dudes walking around, hey, what's up, to women and talking to them. And then they'd feel it out, and then they'd either leave, or that was it. Like, congratulations, you met someone. Now you're going to go hang out or do something. Now it's all like pre-screened on an app. You know, Bumble, the woman who invented Bumble becomes a billionaire, where only the women can make the opening move. Like, these apps have you know what? I'm not going to say this. I don't know what the long-term effects of this are going to be. So I'm not here to make like a harsh criticism of the dating scene or the choices of men and women. Just pointing out the differences that I've experienced and what I think might be affecting men and women at certain ages.
Well, I mean, we see the results, and I'm happy to make a prediction. The results are, if you're like a guy at the top of the food chain, you're King Kong again. You're in an aristocracy. You have all the cards on the table. We've returned to an aristocracy where you can live as a man a life that you couldn't have lived unless you were like royalty in a previous time.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend about this. I was like, I think like a lot of this feminist liberation stuff and apps have been the greatest thing for like douchey alpha guys.
Oh, for sure. Without question.
Because now it's like they're going on apps and they're swiping around on literally every woman. Then they wait for the woman, message them back, and they just, like, I love these memes where like one guy will message 50 women the same thing and go, oh man, that you all saw that? Oops. Thinking it was going to be like a blind carbon copy or something. Yeah. So what I've noticed from a lot of this, there's a lot of regular dudes, clueless and cut out. And there's a lot of guys that are prominent, successful, wealthy, who are just owning the game.
And they're doing it unabashedly because they're leaning into the sexual revolution too, which is, okay, there are guys who just like, okay, I just don't do monogamy, dude. You know, you got a problem with that? Fine with me. Whatever. This is kind of the way it's going to be. And everything is free. Nobody's being compelled to do anything. And so then the competition becomes less because more and more people check out. It creates this like vicious cycle. So then you do that. The winner of all this stuff are the top 1 to 10% of men are the people who won from the dating apps. And OkCupid showed that. OkCupid, they had all this great. You could never do this now. It shows how far cancel culture is.
They deleted one on ugliness.
Yep.
Like, if you're an ugly guy, you're doomed. And they deleted it because they were like, ugh.
Well, and they did one too where when you call somebody a douchebag, those people, the guy with the shirt off in front of the Corvette actually gets hit up more by the women. So if you're wait,
I remember saying that.
They said, although many women will stay in their profiles, if you're not wearing your shirt, don't bother. They actually tend to respond more to men who are not wearing shirts.
Right. So all the empirical data show that if you're the douchebag guy, take your shirt off, wax your car, show pictures of you by the Eiffel Tower, you're going to actually get head up. And if you're the respectable guy and very nice, you know, I read all the feminist lit, you're not going to get anything. But that's, of course, why they had to delete it, because the empirical data was in direct conflict with the narrative.
There was one they had specifically about attractiveness, and what they found is men will message women similar to their own level of attractiveness. So it's a bell curve, but women overwhelmingly overvalue their attractiveness and only try going for the best of the best guys. So it's something like, what is it, like 20% of the guys get 90% of the messages, right? Something like that. And it's all the top tier, best of the best, chiseled, 6'5", you know, models.
When you think about like
shirts off,
tribalism in general, you'd have a group of women and they'd all have one guy that they would use for the semen to have the children, and that's how it went. And now it's like we're reverting back to that almost.
It's unfortunate, and that's
evolving to a new version of it.
Yeah, we're devolving, and that's
is it
where
evolving or devolving. I don't know.
Well, I'm kind
I don't
of
think it's either. I think it's a change or whatever.
Well, that's where I'm an institutionalist. So, you know, that's why I can represent John Roberts and maybe Jordan Peterson's point of view, where he got in trouble with enforced monogamy because people can't have an adult conversation. But if you don't want to be like the Middle East, where one guy has all 5 women, and now 4 guys have nothing to do but blow things up, or get angry, get radicalized. The idea that if we want to live in a socially cohesive, stable culture, I want people paired up. I want people having kids at an early age. I want them thinking about the next generation. Like I said, I'm a cucky institutionalist. I like social stability and social order, and I think, you know, probably less than Jordan Peterson does, but that's where Jordan Peterson got in trouble.
Well, it's called enforced monogamy,
right? And
what happened was you had, I think, some feminist writers thought what he was saying was you would take women and force them to be with men, and what he was saying was that just social like cultural, like, hey, you should get married, you should think about having a family.
Well, here's how it changed. When I'm 43, I'm probably the oldest in the room, right?
Yeah,
41. Okay, yeah. So enforced monogamy would just be when you were like my age, if you cheated on your girlfriend, you were like a scumbag. You know, even your guy friends, you're not getting like high fives unless the other guy was kind of like a scumbag, right? You're just like, Jesus, dude, like, your girlfriend's nice. What are you doing? That's enforced monogamy. It isn't that you have to do it, but there's just a cultural norm.
Well, another thing we have to understand here, people not mating, people not having partners leads to social decay, leads to crime, leads to violence, leads to radicalization, leads to, you know, again, I saw one of the stats, I forgot the exact kind of parameters of it, but it was people who don't get laid usually tend to be blowing themselves up or attacking people, or to be some of the most crazy people in the world.
That's a problem, man. No one deserves to get laid. Like, no woman owes any guy anything like that. So I don't know how you solve for that. I'm assuming the data is probably true. I've heard similar things, but I don't know what are you supposed to do in that regard.
Well, nothing as a society. I mean, that's the whole point. Is that you're not saying that you should change it or that you can change it. It is what it is. To quote, you know, Donald Trump, which got him in all that trouble, is I think it's a bad situation societally, but what am I going to do? It is what it is.
But also, let's make the point here that a lot of institutional establishment, mainstream media, Hollywood powers promote this larger message of promiscuity, of not having partners, of not having families. There was even advertisements by the NIH in the United Kingdom telling people, do you want to have your video games or do you want to have a baby? Do you want to have your high heels or do you want to have a baby? As if having a baby is something bad and taking away from you having fun playing video games, or you wearing high heels or doing whatever you want to do. But
it's almost like they just want you to be a kid. They don't want you to grow up, you know?
Did you post that meme earlier, the high heels and lipstick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I saw that, and the weird thing, just as like a married guy, is it's actually, sex gets better when you're with the person longer, because you know what like boundaries are, and you know things aren't going to go too far, and everybody kind of like knows what's going on. So I saw that, and I was like, actually, these women don't know that in like a committed relationship, they're going to have more intimacy. They're actually going to have a better time. So the idea that like you're going to have a kid and you're never going to wear lipstick and lingerie and high heels is probably the opposite. You're more likely to do that for a guy you're with.
I grew up with TV telling me marriage was bad and having a family was awful. I mean, I you know what show I really I hated was Married with Children.
Yes. Yes.
And the reason I hated it was not because he was, you know, it was because he was a loser. It was because he always lost. The only episode I remember where Al Bundy actually won was when he punched a guy in the face, and then they joked that he sued him and won for hurting his fist on his face. And it was because like the show was making a point that the system was broken. But like I watched this show, you know, when it would come on, I was young, and he was always just miserable. He hated his kids. He hated his wife. They hated everything. And I was like, what is this? This is awful.
We weren't allowed to watch it.
Well,
my parents wouldn't let us
miserable.
Well,
watch it.
look at the way a family is characterized in mainstream media, television, and sitcoms and movies. Look at the way that the father is portrayed. Look at his characters. Look at what he stands for. Look at how he acts. He's a dumb, dopey, fat dope that doesn't give a damn about anything and is absolutely miserable. So seeing that representation plays on the subconscious of so many young Americans, of so many young children, and it's the complete utter opposite of what's happening in China. China, huge population crisis because of their one-child policy. They're literally building databases of fertile women inside of Beijing with
What?
millions of people. Yes,
Creepy.
China is building databases of how fertile women are in Beijing,
Not messing around.
and we only know about that because that was leaked. There's other stuff that they're doing. I mean, they're creating machines that suck out your the male energy. Family-friendly show here. I'm trying to watch my word here. But you saw, I don't know if you guys seen this, but the Chinese machines
Reproductive matter.
Yes. They're literally
Protein.
building machines that build your that suck out your reproductive matter. They're trying to make males more masculine. They're not allowing immigration. They're a very nationalistic country. Lydia looks scared there.
I'm horrified.
But that's happening. That's the
Terrifying.
reality of the world that we're facing.
Yeah,
And
they're
if you
taking it
compare what China's doing to what the West is doing, it's a completely different approach, and one of them is going to be successful, another one is not.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.